Diddy tries to buy his way out of jail with $50 million bail offer, but judges aren't budging. Sean Diddy Combs is currently locked up at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, New York, as he waits for his sentencing scheduled for October. He's not sitting quietly, though. He's actively trying to get out of jail while he waits. And now, he's putting big money on the table. Right after the trial ended and he was found guilty on certain charges, Diddy's legal team asked the court to release him on bail. Their first offer, $1 million. But the judge quickly rejected that. So now, in a move that some are comparing to the game show Let's Make a Deal, Diddy is trying again with a huge twist. This time, he's offering a $50 million bail package, in hopes the court will let him walk free while he awaits sentencing. Let's break down what's going on here, and why this is so complicated. The charges Diddy was found guilty of. Diddy was convicted on 2 counts under the Mann Act. This law, which dates back over 100 years, makes it illegal to transport individuals across state lines for the purpose of prostitution or immoral acts. It's often referred to in federal sex crime cases, but it's a non-violent offense, meaning it doesn't involve weapons, physical harm, or direct violence. According to Diddy and his attorneys, this is the main reason he believes he should be allowed out on bail. He's arguing that since his convictions don't involve violence, he shouldn't be treated like someone dangerous. They say he's not a threat to society, and certainly not someone who needs to be kept in jail before sentencing. And technically, he's right, at least on paper. He wasn't convicted of violence. There were no convictions related to the allegations of abuse or physical harm against women, like Cassie or the other woman, referred to as Jane in the trial. Even though these women testified and shared graphic, emotional stories about what they say Diddy did to them, the jury didn't find him guilty of those violent charges. But that's where things get tricky. The complicated truth about the allegations: while the jury didn't convict Diddy of violent acts, the testimony from both Cassie and Jane painted a very disturbing picture. They claimed he had a pattern of abusive, controlling, and degrading behavior. They said they were forced to stay in unhealthy and unsafe relationships. Jane even described something known as a freak-off, a term referring to sex parties Diddy allegedly organized, where the women said they were pressured or forced to participate. And then there's the infamous 2016 hotel surveillance video from the Intercontinental in Los Angeles. That video appears to show Diddy attacking Cassie in a hallway. The video wasn't part of the charges in this trial, but it still made headlines and shocked the public. If he had been prosecuted in California at the time, legal experts believe he would have been convicted. But California's statute of limitations, a rule that limits how long after a crime charges can be filed. So Diddy never faced legal consequences for that specific event. So, while the court technically can't convict him based on that video now, it still plays a major role in how the judge sees Diddy as someone who has violent tendencies. Even if those acts weren't officially prosecuted, why? The judge said no to bail during the first bail hearing. The judge explained clearly why Diddy was denied even the $1 million bail offer. He said that Diddy's own lawyer admitted during cross-examination that if the case had only been about domestic violence, Diddy would likely be guilty, especially based on that hotel video. So basically, Diddy's legal team may have helped him at one moment by admitting the video was real and not arguing about it, but now that same admission is coming back to hurt them. The judge is using it as proof of Diddy's violent nature, which justifies keeping him behind bars. Now, the argument becomes, if he's considered dangerous, should he be allowed to walk free even for a short time? But what about that $50 million offer? Let's not ignore the elephant in the room. $50 million is a lot of money. That's not just loose change. That's more than most people will ever see in their lifetime. Diddy is using this massive amount to try to prove 2 things. He's not a flight risk. His team argues that Diddy would never run away or disappear. They even offered that he would wear an ankle monitor and give up his passport, meaning he couldn't travel internationally. The $50 million would also be held as collateral. If he ran, he'd lose it all. He's not likely to reoffend under federal law. In order to be granted bail after a violent crime, the defendant has to prove they won't commit a similar offense again. Diddy's lawyers say he knows he's under watch and would never risk doing anything illegal again, especially now, but prosecutors disagree. They believe that even while Diddy was under federal investigation, he still continued his pattern of arranging freak-offs and paying for sex work, some of which may have involved crossing state lines. Again, triggering the Mann Act. So the court's concern isn't just what he did in the past, it's whether he'd keep doing it if they let him out. They believe there's still a risk that Diddy could go right back to the same behavior. No matter how much money is on the line, people are questioning the legal system. This case is also raising larger questions about how money and fame affect the justice system. Many people online and in the courtroom have said the same thing: it should be allowed out on bail. He's arguing that since his convictions don't involve violence, he shouldn't be treated like someone dangerous. They say he's not a threat to society, and certainly not someone who needs to be kept in jail before sentencing. And technically, he's right at least on paper. He wasn't convicted of violence. There were no convictions related to the allegations of abuse or physical harm against women like Cassie or the other woman, referred to as Jane in the trial. Even though these women testified and shared graphic, emotional stories about what they say Diddy did to them, the jury didn't find him guilty of those violent charges. But that's where things get tricky. The complicated truth about the allegations: while the jury didn't convict Diddy of violent acts, the testimony from both Cassie and Jane painted a very disturbing picture. They claimed he had a pattern of abusive, controlling, and degrading behavior. They said they were forced to stay in unhealthy and unsafe relationships. Jane even described something known as a freak-off, a term referring to sex parties Diddy allegedly organized where the women said they were pressured or forced to participate. And then there's the infamous 2016 hotel surveillance video from the Intercontinental. If Diddy was just a regular guy with no fame, no millions in the bank, and no high-powered lawyers, would he even be allowed to ask for bail? One of the reporters covering the trial summed it up this way: if this were any other man without all the money, without all the fame, he'd still be sitting behind bars. There wouldn't even be a debate. And it's true. Wealth can buy better legal teams, it can influence perception, it can delay or avoid prosecution, and it can definitely allow someone to make a $50 million offer, something very few people could even dream of doing. What happens next? At this point, Diddy is expected to stay in jail until his sentencing in October. Legal experts believe his sentence for the Mon Act convictions could range from 1 to 10 years. But it's likely he'll get something closer to a year or two, especially since it's his first federal conviction. And here's the irony: if he stays in jail now, the time he serves will count toward his final sentence. So if he ends up getting sentenced to 1 year, and he's already served several months waiting in jail, he might be released shortly after his sentencing. So there's a strategy to staying locked up now. Getting out for just a month or two, only to return, might not be worth it, even for someone who wants their freedom badly. Closing thoughts: this case is about more than just one man. It's about how power, money, and fame can affect how justice is handled. On one hand, Diddy wasn't convicted of violence. On the other, there are strong allegations and video evidence suggesting a pattern of abuse. There's no denying this case makes people uncomfortable, especially survivors of abuse. One woman following the trial said it clearly: it's hard not to feel emotional when you hear these stories. As a woman, it's heartbreaking. I just hope the judge keeps the victims in mind. And as much as Diddy wants to buy his way out of jail with stacks of money, the law doesn't always bend for wealth. The next few months will determine Diddy's fate, and whether the system truly treats everyone equally, regardless of status.